Propaganda Due was a Masonic lodge under the Grand Orient of Italy, founded in 1945 that, by the time its Masonic charter was withdrawn in 1976, had transformed into a clandestine, pseudo-Masonic, ultra-right organization operating in contravention of Article 18 of the Constitution of Italy that banned secret associations. In its latter period, during which the lodge was headed by Licio Gelli, P2 was implicated in numerous Italian crimes and mysteries, including the collapse of the Vatican-affiliated Banco Ambrosiano, the murders of journalist Mino Pecorelli and banker Roberto Calvi, and corruption cases within the nationwide bribe scandal Tangentopoli. P2 came to light through the investigations into the collapse of Michel Sindona's financial empire. P2 was sometimes referred to as a state within a state, or a shadow government. The lodge had among its members prominent journalists, members of parliament, industrialists, and military leaders, including Silvio Berlusconi, who later became Prime Minister of Italy, the Savoy pretender to the Italian throne Victor Emmanuel, and the heads of all three Italian intelligence services. Searching Licio Gelli's villa in 1982, the police found a document called the Plan for Democratic Rebirth, which called for a consolidation of the media, suppression of trade unions, and the rewriting of the Italian constitution. Outside Italy, P2 was also active in Uruguay, Brazil, and Argentina. Among its Argentine members were Raúl Alberto Lastiri, interim president in 1973 during the height of the Dirty War, Emilio Massera, who was part of the military junta led by Jorge Rafael Videla from 1976 to 1978, José López Riga, minister 1973 to 1975 and founder of the Argentine Anti-Communist Alliance, and General Guillermo Suárez Mason.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory! No one will honor us for losing gracefully. No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. For us, it is conquer or die. The mainstream media, or perhaps we should refer to them in the original form, Lügenpresse. It's not just that they are leftists and cucks. It's not just that many are genuinely stupid. Indeed, one wonders if these people are people at all, or instead soulless golems, animated by some dark power to repeat whatever talking point John Oliver stated the night before. To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around. Within the very blood in our veins as children of the sun lies the potential for greatness. That is the great struggle we are called to. We are not meant to live in shame and weakness and disgrace. We were not meant to beg for moral validation from some of the most despicable creatures to ever populate the planet. We were meant to overcome all of it, because that is natural and normal for us. The press has clearly decided to double down and wage war against the legitimacy of Trump and the continued existence of white America. But they are really opening up the door for us. America was, until this past generation, a white country, designed for ourselves and our posterity. It is our creation. It is our inheritance, and it belongs to us.
And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth, conquering and to conquer.
This year, if you are among those Americans who choose to get one, CBN News medical reporter Lori Johnson says you may even see a big difference in the form of an RFID chip. Take a look.
People who get a coronavirus vaccine may notice it looks a lot like their eye drops. They might also see an RFID chip on the package. The U.S. government has contracted Appyjet Systems of America to make 100 million pre-filled syringes to quickly distribute a coronavirus vaccine. It would use a high-speed blow-fill-seal technology used in pre-filled single-use eye drops.
There are eyedropper facilities in the U.S., not many, but a few, that we are going to upgrade so they can handle vaccines. Then what will happen is those facilities will make the containers right here that will hold the vaccine. We will add a needle hub to them, and voila, you have a pre-filled syringe that's ready to use.
There's also space on each syringe for an optional radio frequency identification chip containing a unique serial number for each dose. It would not be injected or touch the patient. The chip would be scanned by healthcare workers in order to better track overall vaccine information.
It is designed so that there is no counterfeiting. It's designed so that we'll know exactly that the right dose hasn't expired. However, that chip only refers to the dose. There's no personal information, no patient information. It's simply like a barcode, only we know instantaneously where and when that dose has been used. That also helps public health officials know when there are outbreaks, have we vaccinated enough people in those areas?
The pre-filled syringes will add to the limited number of traditionally manufactured vaccine supplies, such as specialized equipment to fill glass jars, stoppers, needles, and syringes.
People are worried about, do we have enough medical glass to be able to put all of these doses of the vaccine into vials so that they can be administered? And that's a serious issue to think about right now, even as we are anticipating, if all goes well, that such vaccines may be available in millions of doses as soon as this fall.
The Department of Defense says once the vaccines are made, they'll be delivered to healthcare providers nationwide with the speed and efficiency of the U.S. military. Lori Johnson, CB.
Well, I'm concerned that the worst thing that's ever happened to the world is what's really going on in the Vatican. And that doesn't even bring up the subject of propaganda doing. P2, the propaganda doing, P2 Lodge, that was even mentioned in Godfather 3 twice. There's a Masonic order in Europe called Propaganda Due. It's called P2. And it's connected directly, P2 is connected directly through membership with Opus Dei and the Knights of Malta and the Jesuits. Jesuits, Opus Dei, Knights of Malta, Masonic Order are connected directly to something called Propaganda Due, P2 Lodge of Freemasonry. P2 Lodge of Freemasonry is world famous to people who do research into criminal organizations. And P2 is pure, unadulterated, poured directly out of the trough, Nazism. Underworld organizations, drugs, human trafficking, pornography, violence, underworld organizations, all P2. They are the ones who are promoting the right-wing death squads in Central and South America, Mexico, the drug cartels in Colombia. We're talking Catholic, Knights of Malta, drug cartels, Colombia, extraordinary vice on a level which it is hard for most humans to recognize, and it's all being orchestrated out of the Holy Father in Rome. This is why I've said so many times, there's never going to be a time in the history of this country that America will be saved. I don't believe America can be saved. I truly do not believe that America or the human race, I don't think it's just my opinion again, but I don't think the human race can be saved, and I don't think America can be saved, because so many millions of people just love the filth and degeneracy of the world we live in. They love it. They love the Holy Father and all the pomp and glory of all the politicians and kings and rulers and the pusillanimous pictures of Bush kissing the ring of the Holy Father. What does that look like for Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, in full color on the news, bowing down and curtsying and bowing down and kissing the ring of a Roman pontiff? The men who founded our great nation would throw up with this treason, high crimes and treason against the state by these people who call themselves America's leaders. I'm telling you, the Vatican has given us the mafia, drug running, prostitution, terrorism, violence, child pornography, all of it.
And the children that are disappearing.
Ancient coral forests are clear-cut by greedy fishing companies. In New Zealand waters and around the world, giant nets with steel skids drag for kilometres.
That's where we are, sir.
Well, you know, prisons have been a part of the lives of societies whose internal cohesion as communities fell apart at some point. And so the only way they could hold themselves together was by taking a subsection of their own, calling them a police department, giving them a monopoly or nearly a monopoly of force to basically impose on those who felt shortchanged in the community the dominant perspective of those who were in charge. To say the same thing in simple English, if you create horrible divisions in your society, then the temptation to manage them by forcing them upon others rather than reaching a compromise becomes very, very tempting. That's why the deepening of divisions in the United States today shows up quickly in the form of antagonism towards the police, as we've seen in the last few weeks. If I could say something about the 13th Amendment as you brought it up, Michelle Alexander deserves the credit. She's a professor here in the United States right now, for having pointed out that the United States not only has more people out of a percentage of its population in jail than almost any other country, and certainly any other developed country, but that the overwhelming majority of the people in jail are either black or brown. What you could then say, if you remember the 13th Amendment, is that the slavery that was abolished in the American South on the plantation wasn't so much abolished as it was relocated out of the South, in particular, into Americans' prisons all across the country that have become the new slaveholder because they are allowed, and in fact they do this, they are allowed to use the inmate in there for whatever reason got him or her in there, and it's overwhelmingly male as well, as slaves. We now have prisoners being basically leased out to private employers. Some private employers have moved their facilities into the prisons with the approval. The prisoners are paid unbelievably low amounts of money. Some Americans even noticed that in those wildfires that really hurt California over the last 2 or 3 years, they used convict labor to help put out those fires, and then afterwards threw them right back into jail, which struck me always as a remarkable acknowledgement of what they had just done. But it's a terrible feature of our society. If you're seriously concerned about racism, as we at least say we are, you ought to be first and foremost worried, about the divisions between white and black. I mean here mostly the economic ones, and then asking the police to keep the lid on this inequality puts the police in an impossible position. I don't mean to excuse them for a minute, but you are asking them to impose a level of inequality that anyone would resist, just as the black community has. But you also have to face the reality that our prisons are literally schools for slavery. We are legally allowed by the 13th Amendment to treat inmates, the overwhelming majority of whom are black and brown, to treat them as slaves, which we do. We are training them to accept slavery, to think in terms of slavery, to be bitter about their own enslavement, and then we wonder when they come out of jail that they may not be the best people in the community, given the experience they've been put through, that